Hello everyone, welcome to the old school Q&A, officially the last Q&A of the year, so sad times for everyone apart from me having to host them. Just kidding. Today I'm joined by the most wonderful Mod Ash, we have Mod Squid, and also Mod Husky is here. We have Mod Sani looking after the chat, so if you have any questions, feel free to @oldschoolrs. And also, Mod Spear is clicking all the buttons in the background to make things work the way that they're meant to. Right, let me quickly go to the lovely script that Sani has put together. So I'll read through this. Of some announcements just to go through quickly. !Leagues. Leagues is still live and it's not too late to start your Trailblazer journey. So use !Leagues to find out more and begin your Leagues 2 adventure. Another one, !Xmas. It's finally time for the last holiday event of the year. Ooh. Travel north of Falador and help stop the goblins from stealing Christmas in this festive event. Use !Xmas for more info. We also have !Gazette. So if you missed it, we're back with the very last Gielinor Gazette of 2020 to talk all things old school, from planning and roadmaps to ideation days and new-ish, kind of. It's a few months late. JMods. You can find out more by using !Gazette. And then lastly, !AKD, or A Kingdom Divided, to check out the newest addition to the Korend quest series, A Kingdom Divided. Investigate the hidden corruption within the ruling Korend Council and discover the secrets that lie within. And on that note, the poll for A Kingdom Divided, the Arceus Spellbook rework, and the Shavian rework went live around about 15 minutes ago. So if you haven't already, head to a poll booth or open up the poll interface in your account settings page to be able to cast your vote and have your say. I would mention just once more, if you have anything you want to ask the team or myself, then please @oldschoolrs with your questions. And to give myself a little bit of a breather, I'm going to ask, how is everyone? And I'll start with you, Ash.
I'm okay, thank you. Just making Christmas plans and finishing off the last things for this year's work.
Awesome. How are you doing today, Squid? It's been a while. I know that you unfortunately missed the stream we had for your wonderful Tempoross, but
yeah, that was a shame. But yes, can answer any other questions that come through today. But yeah, I'm good, thank you. Been working on the lore books and NPCs for Tempoross, the players to get all that history and interesting information. I'm also got my festive squid, so getting into the spirit for Squidmas, and yeah, it's all good.
I like it. I like this shirt. Thanks for that. How are you doing, Husky?
I'm good. I'm wondering why chat are commenting on my mustache, but apart from that, it's been a good week. I think it's like Mod Flippy and I have just been hard at work, kind of going through the league player on house room that you guys are doing, just trying to make sure that we actually can deliver it on when the league ends. I think alternatively, obviously, we don't want to have a week delay in giving you guys the rewards. So all looking good, all getting pushed into QA. So yeah, it's going good. And obviously dealing with a puppy is tiring work. Everyone's like, oh my god, he's so cute, you're so lucky. Not realize that this thing nips your hands, nips your heels, doesn't listen to what you're doing, because for all you know, he doesn't know sit. He just thinks you're screaming pink at him or something. You're just going to train them all these commands up again. It's
razor sharp claws.
So sharp.
Yeah. We talking about the things that you've been working on recently with the League's rewards, we came out of a kind of like review of the kind of content everyone's been working on over the last few weeks and such, and some of those are looking amazing. Player-owned houses are getting an upgrade. So that's going to look really cool. Can't wait to see some of the things that people are going to be putting there and how they just kind of lay everything out.
The only thing I'm upset about is it looked great in the Twisted Wall kit, but I think the Twisted Wall kit's been usurped as the best wall kit now with the Christmas event. It's so devalued my points earned in the last league.
Well, it be what it be. It's just some things you just have to move on from.
You do have the world's most amazing carpet in your project.
I do. And you know what? I'll just say it. Like, screw you, Mod Rye. We asked for a map of Gielinor, but you didn't need 24 unique pieces. That was not nice to have to figure out the logic and manipulate coordinates to get them all in there, but hey ho, it's worth it. It's easy if you ever want to add new ones, you know. So
What happens if we have like map changes?
We probably shouldn't have given them these sliding puzzles over the last however many years if we didn't want to have to solve a 24-piece jigsaw like that.
it was quite funny because the amount of iterations I had to get that working where, oh no, these pieces are all suddenly like 90 degrees the wrong way, these ones are 270 the other way, and it was kind of funny seeing all of the jigsaw versions of that rug until we got it working.
Yeah, the kind of few examples you did show were rather humorous to begin with, but it looks great, and I'm sure the players are going to really, really love seeing them when they're in game as well. I guess I ask this normally every week, and I think I want to keep on doing the same thing. Does anyone have any interesting stories in terms of what you've got up to the past week? I know we kind of covered it very briefly in terms of how have you been, but anything interesting, notable, things that may be worth mentioning here?
The kebab van at Mitcham's Corner at north of Cambridge is pretty darn good. Recommend the mixed kebab, possibly for 2 eaters rather than 1, but I got there. That's new.
There we go. If you ever want a good kebab in Cambridge, you now know where to go, as of endorsed by Ash. So, must be good. You're a big fan of kebabs, right? Okay, well, that's about it then. I guess no one else did anything interesting. I didn't either, so I don't know why I asked it. I was hoping you'd be able to carry it, but we just have kebabs this week, so that's fine. Let's move into some questions that we've got. So, again, at Old School RS in the chat, if you have any questions, Mod Sani will be pulling those together. First off, the question comes in asking, when will Soul Wars be available to everyone?
Is it the 6th?
It is the 6th, yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure it was being delayed a week, but it is the 6th, so the next game update we do.
Yep, as far as I'm aware, first game update of the year, Soul Wars will be available to everyone. Woo. Question number 2. What is happening for Old School's birthday next year?
Oh, I've seen the plans for that. They are hilarious. It's been a holiday event as usual, but the design, I think, by Mods West and Acorn, I think, it's, am I allowed to say batshit crazy? Anyway, that's what they've got in mind for the birthday in mid to late February. We do have another before that, though, for the anniversary.
Yeah. The anniversary one's superb. I don't know how the birthday one's going to be. I guess I have a little bit of creative control over that, considering I'll be the one implementing their crazy plans. So we'll see how much humor and how much we can sneak in and that sort of stuff. But no, that birthday event should be a lot of fun because all I know is the icon that we put up to say what's this pitch about, what's the first image you see? Isn't it like a monkey on top of a unicorn wielding a dragon scimitar or something crazy like that?
What you want?
Well, if that's anything to go by, I reckon it would be pretty crazy then. But the real question is, what's crazier, the anniversary event or the birthday event?
Probably anniversary.
Yeah, it does look pretty whack, to be fair. I can't wait, again, to just see the kind of reactions people post on social about that event. It's going to be getting a lot of laughs within the office. I'm pretty sure Ash has done a really good job with that.
Thank you. Certainly Modrock warned me that some of the chat options will very much trigger some players who care intensely about the characters in question. And mission accomplished.
Got him. All right, perfect. Next question. How long is left in Leagues 2 Trailblazer?
What's it say? How many days? The 6th of January. I'm just going to log in and see what it says.
Yeah,
in the
it's the
opening
6th of Jan. Just over 2 weeks.
What does it say? When I log in, it says there are 21 days. So unless I've somehow messed up the date logic for 2 leagues in a row, which I think last time I only noticed at the end, it was like I said 5 days left. It was actually only 4 days left. And I was like, oh, God damn it. So unless I forgot to fix that, it is 21 days.
Cool. 21 days or the 6th of Jan, whichever one comes first. Okay, and then there's another question coming in regarding poll results, and specifically, what were the results of the past polls? I'm logging into the game now to go to the poll booth, so give me a second. I'm not going to tell you every single one because you can just check this out in game. But for those of you that are curious, combat achievements, everything passed with flying colours apart from the offhand. That's the PVM accuracy-based offhand that failed. Didn't do too well, but it is what it is. And for Tempoross, which is the fishing skill boss, along with the fishing trawler improvements, absolutely everything passed. And that's one of our most successful content pieces, actually, that wasn't like a standalone quest for quite some time. The only things that failed in there were 2 additional kind of buffs that got added to the Tome of Water, which was to increase the duration of bind spells and increase the accuracy of ancient magics. So potentially something that we can revisit for that. But otherwise, the tome seems to be in an okay-ish place, but we'll wait for the full release and give players a chance to test that first before we look at new things. And while we're on the subject of polls, just as a reminder, the poll for A Kingdom Divided, the Arceus Spellbook rework, and the Shazian area rework is live in-game right now, so please go vote. That closes next Wednesday. Cool. There's a couple of pieces of community content, like player content, that's been created that I want to show you a little bit later on. But before we do that, let's get through some more questions. I'll probably do it in about 10-15 minutes, give us a little bit of a break. First question coming in from Blurberries says, will Group Ironman be a profile which you can load, like leagues? It would be nice to have everything on one account.
I don't think so. The expectation was that, like standard Iron players, you'd be on the standard worlds as they are, rather than on an entirely different set of game worlds. So no, I'm afraid you'd use your regular account on that, in the same way that people making Iron accounts have always done. Sorry.
Okay,
For what it's worth, I'd love it if we could just have an overarching account and multiple accounts underneath it. I know that is a tech nightmare, but even the idea that you could say, hey, I want a new account and here's another subscription, right? It would be so much nicer to have it all under one banner if you're doing alts and doing this stuff, but...
with discounted subscriptions.
It was seriously considered when Stellar Dawn was being developed back in the day. I think their plan was to launch with... Might have been the Transformers project rather than Stellar Dawn, but certainly one of them intended to have, like, your account had a stable of characters and you'd choose which one of the stable you wanted to send into the game on a given day, but have them all controlled from your one login credential set. It seemed great. It's not that we haven't thought of it, but they weren't able to get that. They also weren't able to get launched. But I like to think one day we'll be able to have that kind of thing too, but it ain't going to be in the middle of 2021. Sorry.
No, that's fair. Thank you for answering. Before I move on to more questions, I actually forgot one of the things that was the announcement. I specifically told Sani to not worry about including it in the script because I wouldn't forget, and I did forget. So that I don't forget again, here we go. Tomorrow we will be applying a hotfix to the live game worlds that will look to resolve a current issue that is pretty prominent within PvP, and that relates to the use of the Dragon Spear and Zamorakian Spear special attacks, the Shove special. When that is used, it applies a stun effect, and currently a player can be bound by things such as Entangle, and that would normally apply 3 seconds of immunity before you can be bound again. If you're to use the special attack of the Spear, it can essentially apply a 3-second stun, and that keeps you locked, but doesn't reset that immunity for bind. So as soon as that stun ends, you can be bound again and constantly held in place. And it's a pretty significant time. We feel like it is really like against the spirit of like fair gameplay. So we are looking to make an unpolled hotfix. What will happen after this hotfix is if you were to be under the effect of Shove, when that stun ends, you will get 3 seconds of bind immunity applied to you. So essentially, if I pull up the proper wording for what I've put in here, we're hoping that no matter the scenario, if a player is under the effects of a Shove special attack, they should receive 3 seconds of immunity from the effects of binding spells once that Shove stun effect wears off. So you should always have that 3-second chance to to run away from the pesky PK that is trying to kill you. Cool. Hopefully that's something that you guys are in favour of. And apologies that it took some time to get to a conclusion on that, but we're getting there with it. So, yep. Next question is from Greenboy656. Can the Elder Maul get buffed? Currently, the Cudgel and Bludgeon are better than it in every situation in the game.
I mean, that's kind of wrong anyway, right? It's not every situation in the game. The Elder Maul still has a valid use as a last hit weapon, right? Like, if you need to KO somebody, it's significantly better than those. I think this issue just comes down to, should it be better? I think all this question generally stems from, hey, I got a mega rare reward from raids and it's worth this much and that sucks, right? Because it is the outlier. Even a Kodai, you can be like, it's not a bow, but that's still a lot of money, and an Elder Maul really sucks, right? I think ultimately its niche is as a PvP weapon, and we've just if we were to do something, I wouldn't want to do just a straight stat buff, right? I think that would be the wrong way to go about it, and even because the problem is with DPS, right? Is the slower hitting weapons have overkill. It's all a matter of overkill DPS. I'm not sure how many people understand this, but like at the end, say your max hit your weapon's like a 50. If the monster has 30 health left, it's lost 20 of its max hits, but you're still waiting 8 ticks to do that damage, right? Overkill really matters. It's why like blowpipe is generally so good, because small frequent hits, you don't lose out on as much max hit, and you get another chance to kill them again, right? So with all that in mind, if the Elder Maul did have a thing, it would be like, what cool, maybe unique effect could we add to it? Like, maybe we just need to come up with mechanics for it, right? I remember I got my Elder Maul like the day before Theatre of Blood released, and I was like, ooh, I wonder if there's a creature that there's a benefit to kill things in a smaller amount of hits, or there's a creature in Theatre of Blood that like needs to be killed like really quickly or so. I don't know. Like I was trying to think of like maybe there's a way for that to happen, and maybe that's just what it needs to do. I think there's a lot of items in the game with cool but very niche effects that just don't have enough of a use case for them to have a value. Maybe that's something we can look at more, right?
In terms of wanting to kill something with the minimum number of hits, Callisto springs to mind, because it's got a rather unusual, putting it politely, mechanic, where every time it's hit, or every time it retaliates, it's got a 1 in 15 chance of doing some healing, if it's a percentage of its remaining HP. And that technically means that the more times you hit it, the more likely it is to trigger that. And by hitting it with dealing the biggest chunks of damage every time, you're less likely to run into those healing chances. So, springs to mind when we're talking about things where you want to reduce how many times you hit it.
Yeah, and I've theory crafted about potential mechanics, even where like every time you damage a boss, you take like 10 damage or something like that, right? Like something like that, which obviously this is just a concept, right? But that you would get destroyed with a blowpipe, right? You know, so yeah, I think there's room to potentially look at what we can do. It's just, I don't think, give it 50% accuracy and damage, which would be obscene. Like that's not anything I'd really want to do with the Elder Maul, you know, because anything I did want to do, I don't think I'd want it to really upset the current PvP things, because it's really good for where it sits as a last hit weapon, right?
I think it gets used. I'm not sure how popular it is anymore, just because Granite Maul owns Steel. But yeah, it looks like there is room for it to get changed, but we're not going to say when or if, Greenboy656, because I'm sure you've got a big stack of Elder Mauls sat in your bank waiting. I always get really kind of like cautious over questions about, you know, someone asking for a direct buff to an item, especially when it's like cheaper, because I always think, is this a merch opportunity? But it should never stop us from looking at, you know, fixing items anyway.
It is a little inevitable that, you know, if we are willing to talk to players about future game update plans, they will be able to merge around it. I think we've had to accept that over the last 8 years, and it's worth it for not having to keep every single update a complete secret, especially if you're meant to poll stuff.
Very good point. All right, let's move on to the next one, which comes from RS Twins. Can we add more bonus to the armor rewards from Castle Wars? I mean, I guess we can, but like what? Why?
Bonus do they have current?
I don't know where they sit. I don't know where they sit like stat wise, but I know they're pretty popular with like for pure armor, I think. Because they don't have a defense requirement, I believe.
Sounds about right to me. I also recall requests coming in for another tier of it that was lower, so that more kinds of pure could get in on it, but have something better than the basic tier, which is not that hard to do.
What about Castle Wars 2? Someone in chat says that they're equivalent to Addy, but someone else said that they're equivalent to Steel. So I think it's Adamant. Adamant seems more popular.
Yeah, I think that's the issue. People are saying, "Hey, this armor is really expensive, but are really hard to get, but it doesn't have as many stats." Because I got confused by the word bonus. I thought it had a unique effect or something like that.
Oh yeah, no, it's just defense bonuses. I think I see it as one of those. It's like I would consider it purely more of a cosmetic rather than actually usable armor, and the fact that it has some uses for pures is cool. And I don't know, I personally am absolutely fine with that. I've never looked to change it unless there was a genuine reason, like Castle Wars 2 came out, for example, and there'd be an improved version of it. All right, let's move on.
Though, right?
Yeah.
It's like, do you go the fighter torso route and say like this is the best thing, and you have to go to Barb Sulfur, which obviously it's not, but that idea, like, is that something you want a lot of people to suddenly have to do a bunch of Castle Wars if they don't enjoy the minigame? And a lot of people anyway just do like, they don't play Castle Wars for the tickets, right? They just sit there in a world and AFK, right? So, is that something we really want to have a high incentive reward behind?
Oh, RS Twins is actually in the chat now, and I've just picked up a follow-on from the question, and they're referring to bonus in the minigame itself. So we can add more bonuses to the armor when it's used within Castle Wars, as opposed to it just having more stats. Changes it a little bit. Yeah.
It does change the idea. It's not something like that. Just like, because I haven't read this question, is like, maybe you'd have to look at it, because at that point you've got to say like, is this thing better than Bandos? And what does that do to the minigame, right? Like at what point do you say like, is this the best thing you're supposed to use in the minigame, or is this just better than not good? Yeah.
It does at least help if we ended up with something that was really desirable, but only for use in that minigame, and the people being sent to grind to get it are at least probably the people who want to play that minigame a lot, rather than people who just need to do the grinding, the minigame, to then take the item elsewhere. So it at least gets past that concern.
Oh, for sure. And I think that my issue is that I don't have enough knowledge about Castle Wars, and I would say, hey, Castle Wars community, is this something that you guys would actually like, as opposed to, because I know how players can get when you change content that's precious to them that have established metas.
That being said, it's quite a good reminder actually for me to get in touch with the Castle Wars community. Apologies, that hasn't been done yet. Just been too busy is the honest answer, but my time has freed up considerably now, so some point early next week I think I'm in a series of discords for competitive Castle Wars community, and I'll be getting in touch and having those chats that I said I would 2 weeks ago. So next question from RS Twins. No, that's the one I just answered. Next question from Crazy Kramer. Will we ever see Comp Cape and God Wars Dungeon expansion? I don't want to see Comp Cape ever, honestly. Unless it's purely Comp Cape. But even then, I think it just...
I'm not
I'd rather
opposed...
like a list rather than a cape.
Yeah.
Like a completion list. But to have items come from it, I think we'd just go down the route of... it needs to be so powerful because we've got max capes that have abilities. And then we need to have the Comp Cape combined with the max cape to get... I don't know, it just sounds like an absolute nightmare. And then every new piece of content, what happens with the cape?
I would say, if it did exist, it's a cosmetic max cape, right? Because obviously maxing would be considered completionist on there. But I know there are some JMods who are more passionate about this than for myself. I think Mod Bruno and Mod Elena are quite for it. But at the same time, like, I'm scared of what it does to, like I say, us polling content, right? A great example is combat achievements, right? If the Grandmaster tier of combat achievements, which is not ridiculously hard, I think it's hard to, that could be really high difficulty, that people need to work to get really good at. And people say, no, because I don't want to get that good to keep my cape. Right? I don't want to have to invest hundreds of hours to get my cape back. I don't want that to exist in an environment where we have to pull things past the community, because even a 2% shift could have drastic 2% might be, even 1% could have a drastic change on what gets to a poll and what doesn't, right? In some cases. I've seen suggestions where it's a point system. So like, hey, you need to have completed 80% of these things to get the cape. And then you're choosing which content you want to complete and what not. But it's difficult.
It's not completionist then, though, is it?
That kind of goes against the word of the cape, right?
Version.
Yeah.
For doing complete.
The uncompletionist completion cape. Yeah, I
Yes,
think we've discussed.
At first, it goes on your head, and you get the full cape if you've done the.
The cape just gets longer for every 10% you complete, you know.
We might be on safer territory with the God Wars expansion that was pitched, because honestly, I do think we will one day do something there. That frozen door is just sitting there, waiting for a use. The question of what we put behind it is, of course, open to players. Next would be a very obvious thing to try and reconstruct, especially now the artists actually have the tools that they can use assets from previous eras of the game. Next could actually be on the table. She's had a pretty mixed reception when players have talked about it before, for what it's worth, but adapted versions of that, something else entirely that's completely old school and not like what RS3 did. I do think we will one day do something in the God Wars dungeon to expand it, preferably behind that door, or maybe involving that underwater section that never got used before, because that could be interesting. We have not been planning any of these things for now, though. But I do expect one day we will.
This is also really subjective as well, right? From my personal standpoint, I'd rather work on stuff how would I put it? I want to come up with an idea of myself, what goes behind that door, and make it cool. And I don't want to be restricted to, okay, it has to work exactly like this because that's what Next did, and I'm just a code monkey, right? I have no creative design for cool mechanics or cool story or cool lore. And I think this comes up a lot. People ask, can you do this quest line? Can you do that quest line? It's like, for me, maybe I don't want to finish someone else's quest. Maybe I want to come up with my own quests and ideas, right? Like, because some people do want to finish other people's quests, and if they've got a great spin or a way to take that story, that's fine. But I think it all comes down to, that's my take. That's one dev on a team. I'm sure there's many other devs who would say, I'd love to recreate Nax, right? But
while it's more fun getting to be creative, it's also considerably good fun to do a technical job without much creativity, but see players happy at the other end of it. That's its own kind of fun as well. Let's face it, I do a lot of menu work, and seeing players moving their POH rooms from place to place without having to destroy all the furniture, rebuild it all, I wouldn't call it a great creative work. Hell, it's not even necessarily a good piece of interface design, but I had fun, and it felt rewarding, so we can get our jollies either way. I also agree it would be a lot of fun designing the expansion from scratch if players turn out not to be too attached to what they saw in the other game.
Okay. Maybe there's potential that Mod Squid, this Tempoross challenge mode. Maybe Tempoross challenge mode is in God Wars Dungeon 2. All right.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, challenge mode for skilling bosses is such an interesting idea. I know it's not a question, but I've seen.
I was conscious of the fact you've been quite quiet. Yeah, so actually,
yeah, these are way over my head.
Yeah, let's make this a new question. I'm going to ask you now, Mod Squid. What's your thoughts on a challenge mode version of Tempoross? It was raised in feedback stuff and something that we did go out to talk to the community about. But how do you feel?
So I think having skilling content aimed at high level players is a cool idea. There's definitely a lot you can do there with the assumption of those players are more experienced in certain mechanics of the game, like getting ticks right, all the various pieces of gear they have access to. For Tempoross in its current form, it's aimed at sort of low to mid levels, so it may not be as challenging as higher level players might like, but there's definitely scope in there. There's loads of ideas we could add, like little mini versions of the boss that spawn on the boats, and you have to deal with those alongside the usual loop. That just loads of little things you can add onto it to just increase the tension, increase the amount of mechanics you got to do, which should work as a challenge mode. But then there's also the question of if we're if we want something for higher level players to do that's more challenging, is it better to design a boss that's that challenging from the start? Or, you know, if we try and shoehorn some of those mechanics into something which is aimed at low to mid-level players, it might not hit the mark that you want it to and might just feel underwhelming. So there's definitely a balance there, but I think it's a cool idea, something to explore.
I mean, I've had the question several times about floor 6 sepulcher when, right? Which I think is already like quite ridiculously hard at floor 5. I don't know. Especially considering all the rage I've had from people with Trailblazer League that was a task. Which I think is more the task's fault and not the content's fault. But
I'd be down for seeing what a floor 6 would look like, to be honest. I'm not stepping foot in the sepulcher though, to be honest. So I'll let other people watch them.
The first iteration of floor 3 was harder than current floor 5. We had to make a lot of changes as we saw it develop. I'll let that sink in.
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm just glad I wasn't here to like have to play test those, because I would have been furious probably. All right, we have another question that's actually somewhat related. Well, it is related to the current poll that is live in game. Victor E. Bomb has said, for the run energy spell, what's the ratio of prayer points to run energy restored? Is it 1-to-1? It's a really long question, so I'm just going to leave it at that. But essentially, then just said that would, if it is 1-to-1, it would make it so terrible in every scenario. You can read the rest of it. But I believe that it would be 1-to-1 in terms of run energy restored based on your prayer points.
Things like this are like, God, this is such. I'm going off on such a weird little tangent here, right? But when we pitch things to the community,
that's not
there's
like
a difficult thing. Oh, I know, I'm so bad. I'm so good at tangents. When we pitch things to the community, right, we need to get them to a good enough state where it's kind of complete, but also like we can't have had time to implement every single spell, right, and test them all and get all that balancing and playtesting. Because if we put in 3 to 4 times the amount of work and then it fails, well, maybe we should have just done a different idea. And I think the players would understand that as well, because they just want content, right? So it's a point where, hey, let's go. All the stuff you guys saw in the Gazette, right? Like all these early concepts are like day one stuff, like literally one day of devs, a small dev team working on it, right? Like to get something going. What you guys see in the spellbook design is, hey, let's spend like maybe a week thinking about concepts and having someone dedicated writing design documents and getting detailed feedback. But there's always that sort of development process after that where we then go, hey, let's look and try these out. Let's actually see if there's anything we need to do. And that's where some of that fine-tuning can come in. And sometimes, of course, it's like, the spell currently is actually quite vague, right? It's planned 1-to-1, but it just says converts it. It wouldn't even be going against the poll to suddenly have that be 2-to-1 if we discovered that in playtesting, right? But like, if there was a thing, we would come back with a blog and say, hey, after playing with these spells, we consider we might want to make some changes like this, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I was going to say, in the actual poll booth itself, we do allude to the fact that we would be looking to offer beta worlds for a period of time where you'd be able to test these spells before they go live in game. It would give us a really good opportunity to obviously make balancing changes and such at that point. Because one of the other things that got raised a lot was in the feedback, a lot of people feel that the resurrection spells are underwhelming. And on face value, they do seem like they could be somewhat underwhelming. But I agree with Mod West and his approach in the sense that it's much better, I feel, anyway, for us to propose something that might seem underwhelming, has some use, but isn't going to break the game, and then use the time when you've tested it, played around with it, had the opportunity to use it in all the different areas that you might, to then look at tweaking it, and then maybe offer buffs in a separate poll, rather than it seem on face value ridiculously broken, it fails the poll, everyone then has that negative connotation towards it going forward, so that it's always just voted no on. It's like we didn't make any changes to the way resurrection spells work because we felt that like they were in a good enough place so that if they were in the game and you got to play with them, then you'd be able to see for yourselves and then make that decision, because we can buff it out later if it needs to be. Same with the run energy thing. If it works out that 1-to-1 is bad, cool, we can change it and we'll let you know.
I think people are really underestimating 3 damage max hit that doesn't have accuracy checks, that just passively happens. What else are you doing with that spellbook in some cases, right? Think about Theatre of Blood, right? If you're not needing to freeze, maybe you take Vengeance for that bit of extra damage. This is just, imagine you have 4 people with these like zombies hitting like 0 to 3 every time. that could be pretty good. It's scary because you need to playtest it to find out. You need to start going, hey, how much damage did this do over the course of this fight? Maybe this is too much, maybe this is too little, right? And in a game where like people pay 30 million gold for like a few extra range accuracy for like ACP over Black D'hide, that passive damage could be really strong. It's just really hard to like to get in its perfect balanced state for a blog like this, because there's probably a lot of implementation difficulties with like a resurrection spell, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, Loco Coconut 23 has asked, what tea is Modash drinking?
Gunpowder green at the moment. I've cut out the caffeine lately.
Used to be Earl Grey a lot, if I recall correctly, right, Ash?
Yeah, partly because the rumour got around that is what we were into, and people started sending it to the office, and very gratefully received. We got through a lot of it, but when it's just me sitting here all day, I don't need the caffeine so much.
Fair enough.
On the other hand, quantity's good.
It's a big pot. Very big pot. Andrew Evie has asked, will there be any further LMS reward changes in the near future?
Well, we sort of, it wasn't about the rewards as such, but it was certainly an update for that minigame we saw demoed in the team sprint review this afternoon. I'm very excited. As for the rewards, don't know about that.
Yeah, I can't comment on anything I'm aware of with the rewards. I'm just quickly checking to see back in if we mentioned anything in the Gazette about what is being worked on, so that I can safely talk about it.
We've talked about modes for it in public, so we can be on safe territory there.
Okay.
The idea that in addition to the current stats, stat setup, it would be able to have a pure mode, a berserker mode, when I did the loadout menu, I wrote that thing to accommodate that we'd want to put in additional loadouts for different modes in future. So that bit's future proof. I don't know a date for when we're going to see that stuff, I'm sorry, but there's definitely something coming for it, and it does look good.
Yeah, there are some really exciting changes coming for LMS, so it'll be nice to be able to show you those as and when we can. But let's move over to some of the
Can I ask a question on that? Sorry, LMS.
Content. Oh, go on. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I think in the Gazette we mentioned that one of the next polls will be looking at stuff like collection log improvement stuff. How would the community feel about the LMS rewards being part of the collection log? I think that blog wants to talk about that a little bit, but I'm just curious to see chat reaction generally, because it's like the only minigame that doesn't have them in there, right?
Well, there was a job in the system saying we should put them in there as an unpolled thing because, well, other minigames do.
It's in all intents and purposes a minigame, and the thing that'll suck is it probably should have been in there from the start, and now people have got stuff that, obviously, like special attack stuff could be quite retroactive because we just check if you've done it, but interesting to see how very open,
Yeah. I wonder how many of those people saying no were the same people that said yes to a comp cape, because guess what? You never get those rewards. And this is exactly one of the problems that we might potentially have with like completionist content, is that even just adding some rewards that exist in the game that you can obtain that should technically be on the log that tells you the things you've collected in game, like dead set against.
I think the collection log should just encompass everything. The collection log is already a basically impossible goal, right? It's not. It's there to track everything you've done on your account, really, as far as obtaining stuff. To me, there's no reason why LMS stuff shouldn't be on there. But I do see that there would be pushback from collectionist, completionist people who have already done a bunch of LMS and don't want to go back, especially those who've maybe already got their 1,000 capes and are like, I've already spent all my points, which would really suck. But I think that's like maybe that's on our bad for not doing it at the start. And I think there was a lot of worry about PvP stuff being in the collection log, right? But to me, like Castle Wars is in the collection log, right? That's PvP,
I think it was more about I don't think it was about PvP at all. I do recall that having the collection log was quite a new thing, and it was apparent to players that they could make its numbers go up by buying an item from a shop, putting in and in, out, in, out, in, out, and thus having a nice number on a collection log, which makes for a really, really silly log. So LMS didn't get one of those. Now that said, you stick the thing in there with a cap of 1, problem goes away. Don't think we thought of that at the time. The collection log was less established, and what's normal for it in the rewards was still being evolved. So, yeah, as Husky says, it's blatantly obvious now that it should have been this way, and we're very sorry we didn't realise how blatantly obvious it was at the time. But, one learns as one operates a game for over 8 years, and there's things we do that we just wouldn't have thought of several years ago when it was less blatantly obvious.
So I think it's maybe something that if we've obviously got Poll 74 coming up, we could potentially propose that in there and kind of like get more feedback from the wider player base as opposed to just the Twitch chat. Not that we don't value your opinion, it's just obviously, not representative of everyone. Let's go into this, community content that I want to showcase, because there's some really fantastic work that we've been seeing created of recent. This first image here, that's the Leagues 2 Trailblazer map. There we go. This is titled Neve versus the Neve your mum says you have back home. And that was created by Shaku from Reddit. I thought it was pretty cool. What do you guys think of this one?
I think it's pretty cool. I don't know what more to say about that. I think it's Neve.
So much silence.
Steve is just budget Neve, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, designed to look like a budget Neve and given a slightly off-putting personality and hairstyle, and released into an entirely different part of the game. The idea that he'd later replace her was not something we thought of at the time.
Still sad. All right, we move on to the second image then, please, Sphere, if you don't mind. And the title for this is Christmas Kraken Pets, and this is done by Witchcrafty YouTube.
I need one of these. Please make these and sell them.
Here you go. I thought you might like this one.
This is amazing. Yeah, these are so good. They're really good quality as well.
I think Witchcrafty does a lot of different plushes, and there's been so many different old school ones like Elysian Spirit Shields, Chin Chompers, and so many different things. So definitely go check out these individuals on their respective channels if you get the chance to. If we can move over to the third image, please. Yeah. And the title of this is My Take on Magic, Runecrafting, Herblore, Farming, Onyx, Rares, and the Wise Old Man. Created by Iron Moin, I guess. Sorry, I'm really bad at pronunciation, it seems. So I think these are all like little polymer clay models with some really cool looking vials of potions. That was pretty dope when I saw it. Sweet.
And then on challenge making all those potions as like actual like drinkable cocktails. I don't know if they are. I don't know how they got them the right colors and stuff, but like that would be cool.
Also, judging by the fact that there's coins there, they are tiny.
I love the runes. That's some incredible detail on the runes in the vials.
Yeah, and they are little tiny ones. So there's also a little herb growing inside there where they've put like the base and then grass and stuff. It's also took a lot of time. I don't have the patience. If we have a look at the fourth image now, please, Sphere. This is a Zaya rework / update, combination of continent by Ninja Gamer 1337. It's a little bit difficult to see just the... Oh, there we go. I say the detail on this image is absolutely incredible. There's like entire new zone. You can see the Kingdom of Valamor. And I think to the northwest as well, there's another expansion area that... I can't remember the name of it. It was something that... I know... Oh, there we go. It's Auburn Vale. I know West was quite interested on how they decided that would work. But yeah, awesome stuff. Spear, I'm not sure if you've been given it yet by Modsani, but there should be an image regarding the league stats. Do you have that available? There we go. Cool. So one of the things, obviously, not many news posts coming out now because of the new game updates. We will post out updated stats tomorrow as well across socials. So we'll put that on Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, Instagram, and the likes. But this is the current rankings as of, I think it was 11 o'clock this morning. Husky, was it? These stats are accurate for?
I think it was 11:05, something like that. Yeah.
11:05. Cool. So there you go. Take a quick screenshot of that. Whoever puts it on Reddit, enjoy the upvotes. And we'll post out some updated stats on Friday, and then we'll do the same sometime next week as well, just so that you can still get an idea of where you're sitting. So I was now considered mithril.
I was comparing the numbers from end of Twisted League earlier today to the current ones for Trailblazer League, and I think Twisted League was something like 20.8k dragon, 10.8k rune. And I think that just the difference of like basically double for dragon, and this is like 50. It's not even 50. It's exactly 50%, right? I think just that shows that like this league, like Twisted League was all about the people at the top end, and now there's like people at Rune and Adamant are like actually really properly competing, right? And obviously it falls off at like Mithril, Steel, Iron, and obviously Bronze is just participation. But I think that's so cool to see like how much more this league is going on, into the later weeks.
Mm-hmm. I'm still seeing people constantly posting about how they're pushing for ranks hitting past the 50k point and stuff, even like now. And typically as content like this that's temporary, you get like that huge hype for the first few weeks and then it slows down. But this league has definitely shown that people are super interested in playing it for longer, which is cool.
Yeah, for sure.
So there was another thing that I just wanted to raise, again, a part of an announcement. So apologies those of you that might miss it at the start, but we have quite a few more people in now than we did then anyway. We released a news post yesterday that also talked about some world crashes, an update in regards to that. If you haven't already, check out the news module. It's the top post that's in there at the moment. But the reason why I'm bringing it up now is just because there were changes that were made today alongside the server reboots that we did earlier. And those have had like a much more significant impact on some of the methods that were being utilized, especially by the Barbarian Assault like speedrun and efficient completion community. Obviously, with the post that went out yesterday, the changes that we made over the weekend didn't impact BA as much, but this post was kind of like preempting that more change would come, and that obviously has happened now. So for now, all we're able to do is essentially just apologize that obviously what you were doing before is no longer possible. We will look to try and replicate old behavior where it is possible. It may be that it won't be, and if that's the case, then we are really sorry. But hopefully, even though it is super frustrating, you can understand why we've had to do what we did because of, the malicious kind of activity that was going on as a result of those kind of methods being available.
What I would add to that, by the way, is yes, we'll try and replicate things if we can. It might not be possible because of how intricate these mechanics are, but I think it's worth giving the community time to figure out if they can find other ways, right? People figured out things, and I'm sure they can figure it out again. Even the Kirby skip is still possible, right? If you look at Mulgoat Kirby, he put out a video recently showing that you can do it with one P-neck, no stalls, and that means that we don't really have to do anything for Chambers of Zarek, right? It's still very possible. It's ever so slightly harder, but I think it's interesting to give the community time to come up with those strategies, and I just hope everyone understands that worlds crashing because of this is something that we don't think we can ignore, right? It's a shame that it impacts communities like Barb Assault, but we never intended to,
Mm-hmm. Let's go into another question then. I'm targeting this one directly at you, Squid, because you are named. Is Mod Squid working on any other skill bosses, or is there anything else he is excited about?
I'm not...
related, maybe.
I'm not working on any other skill bosses at the moment. Just Tempoross. It's taking up all my time at the minute. I'm definitely up for doing more skilling things in the future. I do love that sort of stuff. Something else I'm excited about? Well, the December Gazette that went out, I think it was the December one, where we put the ideation stuff. Faction Wars in there. That was one of my proposed ideas. I think would be very cool to see and very different to what we've got. It's definitely far out there in terms of what we're used to in old school, but it's been interesting to see some people talking about it on Reddit and things. That's definitely something I'd love to explore. Possibly a bit bigger of an update than what we might want to be looking at, but yeah, I'm excited about that as well.
I think it sounds really cool. Did you make the fidget spinner graphic, Squid?
Yeah. Oh man, I saw that in the stream. Yeah, it wasn't a logo. It wasn't intended to be a fidget spinner. It is the map. But yes, it does look like a fidget spinner, doesn't it?
on face value, yeah. Especially when you're throwing it in front of a few thousand people in Twitch chat.
Yeah.
I think you did a good job though, kind of like getting the the point across. I'm really excited. Hopefully, we can hear more about faction wars in the future. I think it's a great concept. So
Symmetrical things like that are really hard to not copy things, if that makes sense, because you needed the map to be symmetrical, right?
Yeah.
I had similar problems with Sepulchre, where if you can imagine 4 pathways coming out of a center square and trying to zigzag out and things, it is so hard to avoid like sort of Nazi symbolism with that sort of thing. With coming out, it just like the amount of times I was like, okay, this needs to be on the lower level so it's not visible on the world map and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
definitely something we want to be avoiding.
Well, maybe we can make it a fidget spinner, and then it spins every so often and throws everyone to the next corner.
We could just spin the compass occasionally and say that the map's spun.
There you go.
All right,
Just imagine dynamically have the map constantly rotating. I don't know how you'd handle coordinate logic with that, but goddamn.
Well, it'd be a nice thing to follow up from all your rug work.
Yeah.
Maybe the rug can move next time and it moves with you, like sliding puzzles do.
That was the most underestimated job I've ever done, I think, that rug. It's so simple on paper, but God, I don't want to get into it.
Technically, we make the players solve that exact puzzle for Dragon Slayer 2, where they're given a map on Fossil Island and they're made to do the same solution you had to do.
Yeah. Just praise God, Ash, for helping with the rug issues.
Oh, you were mostly there. I just point out where you could simplify a few things and got there.
Teamwork makes the dream work. 140 OSRS, they have asked, with the clan update coming soon, would we see a citadel similar to RuneScape's?
So, for clans, we would like to give you a private place that can be the clan's own space, where they control who's allowed in, etc. But we are not going to try and recreate RS3 citadels with the skill grinding you did in there for upkeep. We do not feel that's a mechanic that old school needs so much. Our aim is not to create clan content and then force you to spend time doing it. Our aim is to let you be in a clan and then get back to playing RuneScape. So, no skill grinding. There won't be that extreme form of customization where you could have the 4 layouts and the 7 tiers and the dilapidated version and nighttime coming and going. Because honestly, that was a huge amount of work and I'm not sure it was appreciated as much as it was worth. We'd like to give you some customization, a choice of themes, hopefully, but I'm afraid it's not going to be able to. It's not going to be an RS3 Citadel. Just a private place with some customization where you can hang out and have private meetings. The other thing we're not going to try and do is move you to a different game world when you go to it. Because when Citadels came out, the other thing that came with it was what was called instance shards. A game world where there were just instances and the normal map didn't exist. And when you went to your Citadel, you'd actually be hopping to this other game world and connecting to that instead. We do not intend to do that either. When you're in your Citadel, you'll be in an instance on the standard game world. Anyway, that's me for clan private areas. I think we're calling them clan halls in the current plans. Just a place where you can go, but not make you skill grind for upkeep or anything like that.
I'm definitely a fan of clan halls and those private spaces for clans and guilds. It's a place to give you a clan or your guild or whatever you want to call it a nice identity and a place for everyone to go together, and it gives that shared ownership over something. And I don't know if I haven't actually looked at citadels in RS3, but games like Guild Wars had guild halls, and they were awesome. Be able to decorate those and visit other people's guild halls as well. I don't know if we're planning to do that, but that's cool.
There might have been a few things we learned from the 2011 Citadel projects that old school can benefit from. For example, back then the received wisdom was players who are spending lots of time in clans tend to stay longer because of the community aspect of it. From there to, therefore, we shall create clan content that they are required to spend time grinding on. Maybe that wasn't the right leap of logic. Sure, there were things that came later that, like the clan avatar, that let you, get benefits for being in a clan. I get where they were going with that. That's not something we're offering for old school either, certainly at this point. But it made a lot more sense to me than making players spend their time locked away in the Citadel, playing with the world's most beautiful loom or unique kind of mining rock. I do not feel that everything we did in 2011 was worth the time. And for old school, a bit more time pressured possibly, we're not trying to go that complicated.
That's fair. Will clans be able to have tea parties in their clan halls?
I would expect my instinct was a bar rather than a cafe. Maybe that says something about me. I would like you to be able to go in there, sit down, that's a thing, and have a beverage. And I'd also like some kind of shared item storage, if we can make it work.
Wow, that would be really interesting. I assume there'd be some form of that being created for Group Ironman.
Well, frankly, if we can get it for clans, we can have it for Group Ironman. If we can't have it for clans, it's not a good lookout for the next one either, because same engine. Basically, I talked through the engine team with what we'd like to be able to do and how we'd like to be able to implement it. They've not been able to give us a firm yes yet, but they know that we want it, to quote Gollum.
Okay, that's really awesome. I honestly, again, I keep saying that I can't wait for things, but I can't wait. 2021 is going to be so cool. I'm really looking forward to being able to share more and just seeing things develop. It's an exciting year for sure. We have a question from TBL Lunara, who has asked, would the new demonic ashes be usable in the same place as the ashes demons currently drop? So most notably in the production of like Serum 207s, for example. I would assume that the answer to this would be yes. It's a really good question, not one I didn't even consider it when we were looking at like feedback and such, but I don't see why we would make it so that you can't use them in the same way old ashes would. They would be the same.
It'd be a different item. They might have similar names and similar graphics, but it would be the game would not assume that it was equivalent to standard ashes. And the dev who wrote Serum 207 back in 2004 was really not expecting to be future-proof for future versions of the Ash thing. So I think the devs would have to reprogram Serum 207 manufacture to enable this. I also think they could, but we should probably check whether they're going to.
Yeah, definitely.
On that note, I do really want to, if I do work on Leagues 3, to centralize everything in Herblore to the same system, because that was the biggest thing for Trailblazer. That was the pain. Botanist doesn't work for this, Botanist doesn't work for that. Botanist, because there's a reason that the Production Master effect says it doesn't work for potions with stackable ingredients, because they have a different system that was, quite honestly, I spent a lot of time trying to get it working and said, this is not worth the time at this point. Because, unfortunately, we have other stuff to do to get the league out, right? So, yeah, they kind of need to use the same system, and I'd be all for that.
I'm sensing some pain in your voice there, Husky.
Do you know what annoys me? Like, Mod Lenny had to plug the botanist check even for like saving ingredients into like, I think it was like 20 or 25 places. That shouldn't need to be plugged into that many places. It's painful because if you ever want to make a minor change to something, or like how it works, or the logic was slightly wrong somewhere, you then need to go and refactor everywhere else. And I'm sure Mod Squid can feel my pain with the fish barrel stuff and fishing. Fishing is not centralized at all in the way it needs to be to handle stuff like that. So I really want to do reworks to that for future content, because we need to be able to apply effects like this pretty quickly and easily. Anyway, my tangent aside, just bringing back nasty
stuff.
Yeah, it's still relevant to the topic, so it's fine, Husky. Don't worry about your tangents. I'm worse than you when I'm not hosting, believe me. We have Braga Lager has asked, has the old school team ever considered adding an Ava-ish device for powered staves? As it stands, magic is quite expensive to use in normal PVM situations.
I think there is a definite imbalance in cost to power for magic. It's quite often seen as the weakest style and is very expensive. But I don't think that would be the correct way to go about it. I think that if you had any way to reliably save runes, you would crash the cost of runes quite substantially. And I think that would have more negative impacts anywhere else in the game. I don't know. I think maybe this is someone who's played Trailblazer League and said it feels really nice to have 90% ammo saving, but it's a league we're allowed to be nice like that, and especially in a 2-month period, picking magic and having to craft 100,000 runes or buy 100,000 runes just isn't good gameplay. So we're just if you're picking magic, you basically cast for free. Not quite free, because I don't know how we would make it pick up all spells able to use without any runes in the inventory checking. That's a major overwrite for that, but basically free, right?
I mean, we do already kind of have these things that are looking to save runes now in different instances. There's obviously the Tome of Fire, Tome of Water. They don't, they are just the same as if it was a normal stave, but you can use different staves instead, so you can still get that rune saving effect. Maybe there's stuff there for the basic runes, but yeah, I kind of agree with the higher level ones.
From a tech point of view, I actually did centralize all the code that checks for runes for spell casting anything on the spell books, so we might have a bit more flexibility than is widely realised. On the other hand, I'm not sure I'd want to do this design with it. What we could look at, of course, is for low-level magic, it's not a cheap skill to learn if you want to try fighting monsters with it. If we wanted to try introducing, very beginner weapons in the same way that the Blood Pact did in other RuneScape. You always time it with the gaps in what I'm saying. It's amazing. If we wanted to introduce things like that, like their slingshot that could throw pebbles off the ground without any ammo, or a stick that could, I think it cast a newbie wind strike and nothing else, we could do that to help people get a foot on the ladder, hopefully without revamping the entire darn skill.
Okay, that could work. I also just remembered, just from chat reminded me as well, things like Biofighter's Staff, that helps save with nature runes. I think the Kodai has a chance to save on cast as well. So there are definitely things that are in there. It's just not on the same scale as an Ava. So
global, that's scary. Right, but something from a specific rune that is a specific item that is maybe a rare drop from something and has a cost associated with it feels nicer. Saying that an item that globally saved 20% magic runes would probably be quite expensive, so...
Maybe something for Raids 3, right, chat? I'm surprised it hasn't been spammed and I've asked for it now. So we'll get through 2 more questions. I'm just conscious of the time. So let's get this one out of the way from Nitrous King 1. Is there a possibility for Ironmen to have visitors in their house or visit with restrictions? There are so many trophies and rewards to show off.
It's restricted because there's a lot of things in houses at present that can transfer items, and the likelihood of there being future things in houses that could transfer items. Considering the severity of a bug where item transfer starts happening to them, it seemed safer to just block the whole darn thing rather than trying to catch every single thing. That said, bigger team now than it was in 2014 when we made Ironman. I think it could be done. Hope that hell we don't miss anything. There's the really obscure things like that chest that can only hold 3,000 coins, but it's still 3,000 coins. and better make damn sure people remember every time we had a new thing that could transfer items in future. But I wouldn't rule it out. And it's something that I honestly think that the Group Ironman team is going to have to solve anyway, because it would suck massively for Group Ironman if we couldn't solve it for that. Mm-hmm. So if it can be solved, we can probably use the same solution for everyone else.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same. It sounds like a good thing we can look at then. And because I think you're right, almost everything would need to be looked at individually and considered, right? And there's a lot of stuff in a player in house.
Yes, and that's just intentional things, considering player in houses have been known to... Obviously, it wasn't in old school because we knew about it and preemptively did some refactoring beforehand. But the bug where you could have as many amulets of glory as you liked off your mate's wall, it's the kind of thing where item transfer doesn't even have to be a documented feature, it just turns out to be there. But as I say, we haven't had that knowledge. Sorry.
Yeah. And as I say, I don't envy anyone that has to work on that project, so there's going to be a lot of checks. Husky, you just wanted to say you're going to get Kuro?
I'm going to skip out on the last question to get Kuro, because I'll need to let him out to pee first.
This is your opportunity, so go. I'll ask this last question, although it's a quick one, and I'll wrap up with some announcements. DKHO_ has asked, if Cerberus and Hellhounds are reclassified to demons, will the Arclight have a multiplier on it? I assume this means, like, will the Arclight work against Cerberus? Because that's something that was asked quite a lot in feedback, and the poll question was changed to say that Cerberus would also be included as a demon if Hellhounds were. The answer is yes. Arclight would work on Cerberus the same way it does with other demons if that was to pass. And that was the end of the questions, but we are going to stall temporarily while Husky gets Kuro for you. So let me just quickly wrap up with some of the announcements that we did at the start of the stream, including the ones that I forgot about. So Leagues. Leagues is live. It's not too late to start your Trailblazer journey today. Use Leagues to find out more and begin your Leagues 2 adventure. Xmas. It's finally time for the last holiday event of the year. Travel north of Falador and help stop the goblins from stealing Christmas in this festive event. Use Xmas for more info. Gazette. We're back with the very last Gielinor Gazette of 2020 to talk all things old school, from planning and roadmaps to ideation days and new-ish JMods. Find out the latest by using Gazette. Whew. AKD. Use AKD to check out the newest addition to the Korend quest series, A Kingdom Divided. Investigate the hidden corruption within the ruling Korend Council and discover the secrets that lie within. Ooh, ominous. The poll is actually live right now, so if you haven't already, head to a poll booth, open up the poll interface in your accounts tab, and go and vote. Here is Kuro. Whilst you are distracted by Puppy, 2 other points to just quickly address. Tomorrow will be a hotfix applied to the live game that will change the way that Dragon and Zamarakian spears work. The change will essentially make it so that, let me bring up what I wrote, no matter the scenario, if a player is under the effects of a shove special attack, they should receive 3 seconds of immunity from the effects of binding spells once the shove stun effect wears off. So if someone spears you, you will get 3 seconds of binding immunity when that stun ends, and you can then run away if you should so please to do so. And then finally, the last announcement was in relation to a news post we put out yesterday that's titled World Crashes Update. You may have noticed over the weekend there were a few instances of worlds crashing. We did an investigation, and it turned out that a small group of players were essentially trying to manipulate game content behavior maliciously to attempt to dupe items and wealth in game. We have had to make some changes to the way that certain in-game behavior works that has impacted various different methods. Some of them are level 3 combat fire capes, for example, the BA speedrunning community, the Kirby skip in Chambers of Derek challenge mode, although I believe there's already an alternative that's been found now. But yeah, we at this point just want to say sorry to those of you that had legitimate methods that have been impacted and no longer work. Where possible, we will try to replicate old behavior. It might not always be possible, but as frustrating as it is, hopefully with the serious nature of what was going on with those methods being available, you can understand why we had to remove them. And that is everything from me. And there's Kuro, such a cute dog.
No one listened to a word you said.
I know. But that's fine, because I just had to speed through it anyway. Alright, cool.
People are asking for screen Kuro.
Oh,
Sleepy?
Little yawn. Yeah, he just got woken up. This is why I did at the end of the live stream and not the start. The start felt awfully cruel last time when I woke him up only to put him back in for another 50 minutes until playtime. Yes, it's Kuro as spelled in chat. And people saying, surprised he's not a Husky, I already have one of those. He's currently at work with Jansa.
he's such a yawner.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, I think on that note, we can wrap things up here. So thank you to those of you at home for watching. Thank you so much, Ash, Squid, Husky, for being here. Thank you to Sani for doing the chat questions. And also thank you to Spear for obviously doing all of the wonderful production things and pressing buttons that I have no clue how to do. All right. Everyone, enjoy your Christmas. Have a great holiday. Enjoy your time off. Play RuneScape.
Thanks for being an awesome community in 2020, guys. See you guys in 2021.
Yeah, let's look forward to it. All right. Thanks, everyone.